Hey, hey, Star Fam, howdy, hey, aloha, and today I want to sort of present a totally unscripted video on how to work with transits within Capricorn Prometheus. It should serve as a tutorial, or at least part one of maybe a series if it leads to a need for more information about how to use the various sections or components, parts of the transits dialogue to get the most out of, get the very most out of the functionality that's been coded into the program. Without further ado, I think I want to just do some quick tests. Gotta get software open. And actually, all right, that might be the last you see of me for a while. So ciao for now. And this is Capricorn Prometheus. You're probably, if you're a user, kind of familiar with this view. Mine is going to look a little different. So once you have a chart in your session charts, what we really are doing is running transits. So you can do that in a couple ways. You can right click here and go down to this option, transits and progressions, and you can click there. It also shows you a hotkey. You can control T just when you have a chart open, any chart. You can control T. Don't like if you have here, like let me show you quickly how you can generate a multi-wheel. You don't have to follow along. What I'm doing doesn't matter. But let's say we have a multi-wheel. Well, don't ever generate transits from a dynamics or more than one wheel at once. That is going to maybe throw your machine into a shutdown, maybe just not work. Maybe if it does work after a long process, it will spit out just too much information. So you want to run charts off just a radix, a natal chart, one set of data. Once we have that, we can hit this button down here at the bottom. Let's see, can I? Oh yeah, so down here, transits, this button, Control T, the hotkey, or right here. And it will open this dialog. All those options will open this dialog. And this is where this video is going to be primarily concerned. I guess the most sensible thing would probably be to just go through it like, you know, bit by bit and talk about the options and what they mean and what you can do with them. The date, start, and end times are pretty obvious. You know, most people are going to be familiar with the first line being a start date and the second line being an end date. So let's say, you know, we're by default looking at the year ahead. And that's fine for our purposes, but if we wanted to look at 2 years ahead, we could change this 2025 to 2026. We won't, but I'm just giving that example. The radix is going to be the chart that is referenced, that the data will be output against or about. The second section, it just allows you to pick any chart that you have open in the session charts. So we're just going to use this example chart. The third is to relocate the place. So say that Bjork was living now in Hoboken, New Jersey, and that was going to be her local environment. Then we could plug that in and find topocentric data relative to that location on Earth The part on the right, all these sections on the right are really where the goodness happens. What to start with? Let's start at the top. Taking things sequentially, we have a load button and a save button, which allows us to, once we have anything in this transits and progression search area here, once we have anything in this area defined, we can save that definition. So here at a radix chart point, 10 planets. Anytime you see a dialog that looks like this, it's going to be a clickable button that's going to give you the option to potentially open other options, other menus. All these buttons that you see with text on them are they're sort of they're sort of rabbit holes to their own dimension of criteria, things you can change, variables and such. So let's take it from the top. We've defined the radix chart here. If I want to run my own transits, and let's do that. Let's run my own transits. That's nice. So enough of Bjork. That gives you no need to relocate to Hoboken. Look at this back. Like I said, no script. Sorry for the extraneous information, but hopefully this will be good. We'll take this from the top, and we'll just start here. Once we've defined the radix, here we have the radix chart points, and what that's saying is we've got this birth data. At this point, we've got a birth time and natal data entered into Prometheus, associated with all these. And so to take mine, Michael Hartigan, this top row is going to ask which of Michael Hartigan's points, which of this radix chart point do you want to kind of see the transits to? Which points do you want to see transits to? We can start with, let's say I want to see transits to my moon. So here's here's an option, moon only. Let's see the inner planets. Let's see, do we have inner planets? No, there is no inner planets, but we have 5 planets. All right, this looks like a good template. What I want to do right now that I advise you to take note of, I want to copy this, and I'm going to call it inner planets. And that creates a point configuration that will be a carbon copy of that 5 planets. So now I should have 2 of these, 1, 2, that look exactly the same, except you'll see one is named inner planets. In the file name, we have inner planets. So that one, the one I just created, the copy, will go into this and edit it. It has the ascendant, midheaven, and the inner planets. Let's say, for example, that we didn't want to use the ascendant and midheaven. At this point, what this button is at the top of the transits and progression search, the radix chart points, like how we got here, what it's asking is which of the radix chart planets do we want to generate transits against or to. So we just arbitrarily, we don't want the ascendant, and we can delete that point. We can get the midheaven out of here too. We can keep the midheaven and switch it off if we may use it later. And we can actually, I'd like to add the ascendant back in, but switch it off. And let's scoot it back up. At this point, if I select this point configuration, which, since I'm editing it for the first time, rename. All right, so now we have inner planets. We've created a point configuration. So now we have inner planets, and we can define that these transits will reference the inner planets only. With arc directions like solar arc directions or generating arc directed charts, that and progressions, I'm going to say that the logic of these, like the point configuration files and the aspect configuration files, it's going to follow the transits. If you want to use progressions, like I use secondary progressions when I generate transit reports, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to use arc directions or progressions of any kind in this video, but the logic follows the transit section. All right, so here we are at transits, what it's kind of all about. The first thing that we see is a bunch of checkboxes about what precisely we want to use. And these two boxes defining point config and aspect config. Now, we've defined the radix chart points, which means, and you'll see this, will generate some output, that it's going to bounce all of these transiting points around for 1 year, and it's going to show how they interact with only the inner planets from this chart for this amount of time in this place. That said, this then becomes pretty important to defining the transits you want to use. And let's say I want to see the Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn, and only those, and how they interact with my inner planets. What I would have to do is only one more thing. Click transiting to radix aspects, right? Because here's the transiting, Jupiter and Saturn, and here's the radix, the inner planets. So that is going to apply the movements of these transiting planets to these natal planets. We could stop there, but I'd like to cover just some of these other tick boxes, talk about them. This will give information about when Jupiter enters and Saturn enters a new sign, if that happens. This gives information about houses, using the house systems that Prometheus is able to use, which I use a whole sign house system, and for that the sign is the house, so sign ingress is house ingress. So I don't use this. If you use like even sign house system or any of the various house systems that divide the 10th and 4th house to begin precisely at the Imam Coeli and midheaven, you may find this option useful. Transiting to radius house ingress. It will show you when these points enter new house. Transiting stationary points. Now, stationary points are, the program treats stars like stationary points, and it is like if you use the galactic center, or we aren't going to do that in this video. We don't really need to see that. I'm not using stationary points in my radix, right? We're only using planets, so just leave that there. transiting void of course moon. To some people, this is really relevant when moon has been void of course and makes its first aspect again. Some people apply very particular significance to that, and you have the option to specify when to make special note of when that's happening. Like I said, with transiting to radix aspects, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you compare this box to this box. That's really something I kind of always want to see. Transiting to radix aspects. Almost never do I not have this box clicked. Transiting to transiting aspects. Let's look at this too, because this will show any relationality between Jupiter and Saturn. Transiting to transiting is any points in the transiting configuration. They will show the aspects. And then you have transiting solar and lunar eclipses, which is, I don't know, is that relevant to what I want to see next year? Yeah, since, we're looking at inner planets, sure, why not? Or let me change my mind again and just keep it simple. Let's look at the three that I most commonly use. Sign ingress, which for me is also house ingress, transiting to radix aspects, and transiting to transiting aspects. The only thing we haven't covered, the only thing we haven't looked at is, and like I said, all these buttons are rabbit holes. This transits aspect is another rabbit hole. And it's the last one. We're almost there. But when we open transit configurations, aspect configurations, and what we mostly use is 1 degree of orb only. Say we wanted to edit the aspects. Well, I've edited one to show 3 degrees of orb, but let's say just for the sake of tutorial, we're going to open up 1 degree of orb only, and I think I did get parallel and contraparallel. I switched them off down at the bottom. I think the standard or stock aspects may have been different as well. I may have had to define some aspects. Let's say that right now, let's say I'm going to copy 1 degree of orb and call it custom 1, and then I'll take custom 1 and edit it. And I'll just create a custom aspects that I can change up anytime I need to define something specific that isn't common. And we'll do that here for custom transits. And let's say we're going to get semi-square. We'll switch that off, and sesquisquare switch off. Now let's keep it sensible. I actually like those, but let's switch on quintiles. So I want to see that information. We have quintiles and biquintiles. And let's switch on triseptiles, biseptiles, and septiles. And let's see. So these are the aspects that evolutionary astrology really commonly uses. And let's say I want to see all that, just Jupiter and Saturn, how they're going to apply any of these aspects. And if you look at the orb, here's the orb. So on an aspect to aspect basis, we can change this. And, that's where this dialogue starts to become a rabbit hole. But let's say, because Jupiter and Saturn trines might have a more powerful effect. And I just invented that. Let's say some people believe that, some people don't. But let's say that under the idea that Jupiter and Saturn trines were special, we were going to change the degree of the trine. We'll just change it to 1.5, or change it to 2 degrees applying and 2 degrees separating for trines. Okay, and that's going to be defined as this custom aspect. But now you can see a trine goes to 2 degrees. That's just one example of some of the things you can do with an aspects configuration dialog. And I want to kind of leave that there, and we'll keep it on target. We'll stay on point. Custom aspects, custom 1. All right. So now we're looking at 1 degree aspects with evolutionary aspects, and we've taken trines out to 2 degrees just to show a little bit of some of the wild variable functionality within this program. And the moment has come. It's almost going to be not this this time and date. By the time we get there, it'll be January 20th. But the moment has come, so let's begin to generate these transits. And all right, here is so here is a transit graph, and we can see the data output is all of the angles. And Jupiter makes much more because he moves faster. Saturn's a big slow planet, it's going to make less. Jupiter in Aries, so that could be like easy to understand from a house point of view. Jupiter in my 3rd house, Saturn in Aquarius in my 1st house. That to me is how that makes sense for my natal chart. And if you want to see that, you can hit preview right here. Drag it out. You got 1st house Aquarius, 3rd house Aries. And everything else should make sense. If we note trines, what do we see? Jupiter trine Moon. So this goes out. This line will be a little bit longer here, from May 23rd to June 9th. And it's going to reflect when it came into 2 degrees of orb. And this too, down here with Venus, you can see a trine, a little bit longer than the other Jupiter. Jupiter sort of glyphs or lines from that time, because we specified within the aspects to display trines like that. I want to not linger too long. I just want to show that, and I want to say, so we have that now, and here we go again. If you know, first of all, when what we're gonna do is save that, because you can see it opened up with all the defaults again. These are my transit defaults, and it opened up. Let's see, transiting. And I'm going to go back and set this up basically really fast. Not a lot of narration. I had that custom aspects for custom transits, and I had the inner planets. Yeah. All right. So right now, we've recreated this. We know it gives us the output that we want. And now we want to save it so that we don't have to do that every time. Well, these configurations, these parameters in the box, you can save them to transit search files, and they will live in the transit search folder. I don't have an overwhelming amount of transit searches saved, but you can see, and I'll show you in a moment, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Really useful transit search for showing outer planet transits, especially around midlife. I use that a lot. But getting sidetracked, what we're doing is saving new parameters. And since this is an inner planets, we'll call it Jupiter and Saturn, two inner planets. Prometheus transit search. All right. Now that we've done that, very little fanfare, very little ceremony on that. But what we have is the ability to load it up now. You'll see it here, Jupiter, Saturn to inner planets transit search. And, we can load it. It'll be exactly the same because we just defined it. But we can load another one. We can load, let's see, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And this is a search I've created that shows only transiting to radix aspects. Only those transiting Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto to natal Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. I show to 3 degrees of orb because they're slow-moving planets, and all these planets will have some effect within 3 degrees of orb. And this is just some information that I like to look at, especially when I'm working with people who are in their 40s. I'm in my 40s, so I do this. I do this checking all the time. So we're gonna begin this search. We're gonna generate. We're going to generate transit results and list them as a graph. So next year, for me, I have a sweet Saturn trine Uranus, natal Uranus in March, and a sweet Saturn square natal Neptune, and that hits 3 times. Let's say we want to, see the next 5 years for Bjork of Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto. Transiting to radix again, and let's say. So you can move through material very quickly once you have transits saved. And you can get the data that you need by modifying the aspect configurations, the point configurations, and the radix points. But which actually both of these, the radix chart points, whatever you choose, which set list of points you choose here, and the transiting point configurations, both those files live in the same folder, for what that's worth, if that's helpful. Both these come from the same list, so you can define point configurations to be. That's why I distinguished that the one I created was for transits, for custom transits. You can create radix chart, you can create transiting point config for the work that you end up doing. So I want to close this video just by saying Let's give like one more example, and let's say you do work that's very specifically looking at aspects to the nodes. If for any reason, you do anything like that, or just take this and apply the logic to what you would do. But if I knew that I was always going to be looking for planetary relationships to the nodes, the first thing I would do is set up a radix chart point that's like nodes. So I'm going to go down to N and L, lunar nodes. Yeah, lunar nodes only. Okay. And I notice that lunar nodes only is a file that I created. And that being the case, I've already shown you how to create point configuration files. This one has only north node and south node of the moon. The transiting points I want to run, let's say I want to run 11 planets. Let's see. 10. So 10 planets, no moon. 10 planets, no moon is really useful. You don't want to, whatever you do, if you're running years or months of transit reports, you're going to want a point configuration that's like no moon. You don't, because the moon moves too fast and it makes everything crazy. So let's say I want Eris too. I want 11 planets, no moon. And I just found it right here where it should be, 11 planets, no moon. This is something that I have created. It has no moon, no angles. We'll show transiting nodes to the radix nodes, and we've included Eris and Pluto, the two largest dwarf planets, in our list. Okay. Now, say you're doing this kind of work all the time, and you're going to want to check. You're going to want to check these 11 planets and the nodes, no moon against lunar nodes. Well, what we just did, that's too much. So we're going to want to save this, right? As soon as because you can save over stuff. You can overwrite stuff with the same file name. You can make changes if you refine and update. We're going to call this aspects to nodes. And we're going to save it. And now, it doesn't matter. We can cancel out. We can go. You can find J. Robert Oppenheimer's. Let's see. Transits, load, aspects to nodes. Bam. No, just the no look. It's the default is 1 year. It might relocate it to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because I did it so fast. But really to illustrate that once you have this complicated thing saved, then in the future you can very easily apply it. And I just want to take a quick look at this. So we do have house information. Yeah, so if this house information became extraneous, but the rest of it was highly useful. These aspects to nodes are useful, but it's telling us every time inner planets change a house. Okay, so just spitting out some extraneous data. All right. Let's first load that up. aspects to node and see what it's doing. We have it here. So the radix chart points, lunar nodes, that's good. But we have extraneous data. We have radix house ingresses. So let's untick that. It will give us less data. Transiting stationary points. Don't quite need that. Really, we just sort of skipped a step. And we don't need anything, really, but we want to see these transiting to radix aspects. We don't want to see transiting to transiting aspects even. So now that we've refined this, we can save. And instead of typing in a new file name under new transit search, we can just, click aspects to nodes and save. It'll say, an overwrite. It'll give you an overwrite dialog. And when you confirm, now we have this search, and you can see it's taking a lot less time because it doesn't even care what the inner planets, where are they changing house. And now ideally we'll have some sweet information about all kinds of relationships made by all the planets to the natal nodes of, what is this, Oppenheimer? Yeah. But just for example, that's how you would do that. If you did that all the time, say you got a big one here, Uranus. Uranus going to be moving over south node, and everything else you can see is rather ephemeral, rather quick. It's of the nature of inner planets, Sun through Mars. We have a Jupiter trine here. It hardly looks like much more than the inner planets, but you can see there is a little bit difference in the time span, the effect. But at this point, I think we've covered like just about everything I want to cover. Yeah. All right. So hopefully that makes you feel a little more confident with the transits dialogue, and a little more savvy to everything that you can treat as a variable, everything that you can manipulate within the program. It's a little bit confusing. It's a little bit overwhelming. And like I said, with progressions, if you want to use secondary progressions or arc directions, logic's the same. If you have questions, post them down in the comments, or better yet, bring them to Radical Astrology. If you have a Facebook account, that's sort of the group where the community of us 13 sign astrologers, or sidereal, true sidereal astrologers hang out, and all kind of other systems too. So, we don't represent any brand or fly any flag except anarchy, friggin' anarchy. So, jokes aside, I think that's it, fam. Thanks for staying with it, and I'll see you soon. See you soon for the lunar cycle video, for all the goodies, and ciao for now.